Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk about the cost of food storage and is it worth it? So anyone who's been doing this for any length of time and anyone who's just getting started in it is very likely realizing that it can be a costly endeavor depending on how you're going about it. But no matter where you are, even if you don't have food storage put up, going down to the store and buying your food on a daily basis is also very costly. So before I get into breaking a few things down, let me say this right off the bat, and that is the fact that when there's no food available in the stores for whatever reason, whether it be your trucks can't get through for a period of time due to trucker strikes, blizzards, road washouts, or whatever the case may be, maybe it's much bigger than that, and you're depending on going down to the store every day to buy your groceries. What if the groceries are not there to buy? I mean, we've seen shelves being cleared out many times in the last few years. There's been a lot of different things going on, and shelves have been bare in quite a few stores around the country, well, and around the world. So what kind of price can you put on having that food in hand when it's not available? I would say it's pretty priceless. So now let's get into talking about the types of food you put up, how you put it up, and all that. That's all going to vary depending on what's most important to you and what your family needs and what you're able to do yourself. So for some people, especially those just getting started into building up a food supply, running down to the store and buying cases of canned vegetables, fruits, and more are going to be the best way to get started. But I'm not going to go all into how to get started into prepping because I already have videos on that. And if you are new, I recommend you check out my most recent video that I'll be linking to in the description box down below. And that should help kind of give you an idea where to start and how to get going on it, especially if you're on a limited budget. So when we're talking about, let's say, even if we're growing our own foods, like here I have some black cherry zucchini that I canned up. The zucchini is from my own garden. The black cherry juice is not. Or even the green beans here that completely came from my own garden, plus the rainwater that we collected here on our own property. So what went into the cost of making this still is going to be the cost of the jar, the cost of the lids, the cost of the canner, the initial cost, which was an investment that keeps paying for itself over and over again, and then the cost of fuel for running that canner. I run mine off of a propane burner, as you can see in this photo right here. I mostly do this in the summertime outside, or even if you're using an electric range or propane range, there's still costs involved in energy. Whether you go and buy the pre-canned foods at your store or you can it yourself is going to depend on what it is and if you can even grow it for yourself. Obviously, if you don't have space for a garden or you have the garden and you have certain things you just can't grow, buying those things and either buying them at the store fresh and canning them yourselves or buying them already in a canned form may be the best and easiest way to go. There's no real wrong way to go about this as far as putting up food, because for me to tell you you should do it my way, that would be wrong, because my way is not going to be right for everyone, and I'm going to explain that in a bit. Just like the way I like to buy stock up on a lot of powdered organic milks. This isn't going to be for everyone, but I'm going to break this one down and explain why it's worth it to me, even though the cost per gallon is considerably more. And speaking of dry goods, so if you're dehydrating things like this is opened right now because this is a jar I'm working through. This is from my 2020 zucchini. That's why I'm working through this one. And I like to dehydrate up my own zucchini. In the long run, this is the cheapest way for me to go because I can run my dehydrator off my solar power in the summertime, so I'm not paying any more for electricity, though we did put a lot into that solar power setup. So it's not free. We're still trying to get paid back for what we put into it. And it was homegrown zucchini. and I already have the jars. But as a lot of you know, jars, especially right now, are a big investment because they're hard to find. Thankfully, over the years, for me, I've been stocking up on jars that I either picked up for free at garage sales or really cheap at garage sales, or were given to me by friends and family, or bought them here and there brand new at the store when they didn't cost near as much as they do now. And then carrots, even though we do grow carrots, we have yet to get to a point where we grow enough that I want to run a canner full of them. But when I see a good deal on carrots, like the 25-pound bag that we bought this last summer, I'll can those up like I did here so that we have some canned carrots ready to go. So when it comes to some of this stuff, whether it be stuff that you've bought and stored or stuff that you've canned yourself, having these things ready on hand and they're ready to eat like this, such as these canned goods, it's worth its weight in gold. Because in a grid down situation, if either the food's not available or you have a power outage, I can eat the carrots right out of this jar without fear of getting sick from them. So that's one example that makes that right there worth it. Same goes, well, I thought I was bringing in a chili, but I grabbed a jar of spaghetti sauce. But let's pretend this is chili. Let's say we didn't have any way to heat up our food and it was a power outage in the middle of winter, which we have plenty of ways to do that. But if we don't, we could eat this right out of the jar without fear. Even though this has been canned back there for well over a year, it's still good. I have meat that's canned that goes back several years and it's still good. I'm not afraid of it. So with all these different things into consideration, whether it be you want to get into dehydrating, canning, or even freeze drying, all these things require equipment up front. The biggest expense for that getting started is your freeze dryer. And I have a video, by the way, if you're contemplating the freeze dryer, I have a video I put out on why I'm not getting a freeze dryer, why I finally decided not happening. Because I did some different comparisons and just decided that for our personal situation, it's not worth it. It, however, does not mean it's not worth it for you. These are eggs from our own chickens that I've dehydrated up. I have a couple of these jars. I can't remember how many dozen eggs are in each one of these jars, but it is a very viable way for me to put up eggs, and they work really good in baking and many things. I actually like this better than the freezing method, though I will still be freezing the eggs, at least for making mayonnaise, because those work best for making mayonnaise. I didn't have to have a freeze dryer to do that. I've dehydrated milk before without a dehydrator and was successful. And I've even dehydrated cheese. One time I used a regular dehydrator, and another time I just let the cheese dry naturally next to my wood stove, so no electricity was needed for that. So there's a lot you can do with a dehydrator, so that's just a taste there. But please go check out that video, because freeze drying does have its benefits, but they're not quite as extreme as some people think they are, at least when it comes to preserving the nutrients. You got to really look into that stuff for yourself. So there's a lot of pros and cons to consider before you make a big investment in that. And also read through the comments, because in the comments there's several people that shared their bad experiences with freeze dryers and why they wish they never bought one. And there's people that shared their good experiences and why they love theirs. So it's all going to be very varied depending on the person. It doesn't make one person a better food store than the other just because they have this equipment and not that, and so on. So this is why I do videos like this, to make you think. And the same goes to, and this is the main thing I'm going to talk about, mostly because of some questions that came in recently. The same thing goes with storing up powdered dairy products. They can be quite expensive. So when we break down the cost of dried milk, whole milk powder, and the cost per gallon, the average cost is $14 a gallon. So for a lot of you, that's going to be about twice what you would pay for a good organic whole milk from your local store. Around here, for a gallon of organic milk, it's about $8. Sometimes I've seen it around $9. If we go into the Costco that's 75 miles away, it's a little bit cheaper per gallon when we get it there. But we don't get in there very often, and it costs money to drive in there, and it's wear and tear on the vehicle when we do that. When we do happen to get in there, maybe once or twice a year, we'll stock up on a bunch of the fresh milk. But for me, that's one of the reasons why it's worth it for me to have the powdered milk on hand, as well as the Gosner box milk like this. Now we have to pay $2 a box for it because we don't have a Dollar Tree locally. The closest one is 60 miles away, and we never stop in there. And even when we do, they don't carry the milk in there. Yes, I know you can pre-order, but we never know when we're going to get in there. But it's got its own issues. Now, if you don't mind the taste of canned milk, you might like the Gosner milk, which I do like, but I don't like it for everything. So, because it is ultra pasteurized, that's how they can put it in a box. Powdered milk has its own flavor that's different from fresh milk as well. So a lot of that's going to depend on your taste. But what I found is the powdered milk is working really good for us for a lot of things, and really stretches out the fresh milk that we have, because we just don't get to the store very much, and we certainly don't get into the Costco 75 miles away much at all. And at this point, they're still not delivering milk to our area. Thankfully, I can get cheese and other things like that delivered here, and butter, but I cannot get fresh milk. So I've been starting to fall back more and more on the powdered milk. However, that's kind of aside from the point. What's most important is the fact that I have it, and I have a lot of it stored up, because even though it's about twice as much of what I would pay for the organic milk per gallon to buy it fresh, the question we have to ask is, what is that going to be worth when there's no milk available? Now, obviously, this particular thing won't apply to people who either already have dairy animals, which is an expensive endeavor of its own, by the way, or they're vegan or just dairy-free in general. But I'm using this as an example. So I'm going to, before I continue on with the price breakdown on this, let me bring up a couple other things. So if you're vegan, you might like nutritional yeast flakes. How much is this going to be worth to you in a situation where you can't get a hold of it? Or for that matter, what about peanut butter powder? If you can't get peanut butter, you can't get fresh peanuts to make your own peanut butter. So this can apply to anything. So now let me get to this milk powder and why it's still very much worth it to me with that current price breakdown. Gosner milk like this costs me about the same to buy it this way as it does for me to buy a gallon of fresh milk locally. But at least that would be the organic milk. I'm not buying the cheap non-fat stuff that's non-organic and has all the fat removed from it, because in my personal opinion, that's the worst stuff for you. Now let me talk about some different brands as far as this goes. I went ahead and wrote down the price per ounce for the dried product and the comparison, and also giving you the pounds, because it's all going to vary on the brand and the size package. So the math that I did with the different ones that I bought over the years, this one is actually the cheapest per ounce. But if I was to buy the next size down, which I've never done, the 2.2 pound one, it's definitely a lot more expensive. But that one is on par price-wise to the Hoosier Hill 1 pound container. And that is, and for both of those, that's 76 cents an ounce, where this one is 49 cents an ounce. The very cheapest one, it would be if you were to get the Hoosier Hill. Now keep in mind, all the rest of these I'm listing off are not the organic ones like this one. If you got the Hoosier Hill in the 6 pound bag, that one is 48 cents an ounce. So that's the cheapest one that I came across. The Judy's, if you're to get the biggest bag, which is the 2.5 pound, that one's 57 cents an ounce. The Meyenberg goat milk is $1.37 an ounce. Again, these are all the powdered ones. And even though I haven't tried the Anthony's brand whole milk powder, they have that in a 2 pound bag, and that one is 53 cents an ounce. So you can see there's quite a few of these that are pretty close in price. But also one thing I want to point out is that price I gave you on this per ounce, the 49 cents, that's after the subscribe and save discount. Now I didn't figure in the subscribe and save discount on all these, so some of these could probably end up being pretty close to the same price when it comes to that if you go through the subscribe and save, like the Judy's and so on. But this one is at least organic, plus you're not getting all those hormones. So to me, so really price-wise, compared to the rest of the whole milk powders, this is still the best one. And that's why I was really happy with it. But when you compare it to buying fresh milk at your store, it's definitely a lot more expensive. But here's why it's still worth it to me. So when I can't get to the store, because my time is money, literally. Our local store is pretty close to where we are. You still got to consider your time getting in a car, driving over there, going and getting the stuff, stopping and talking to someone who stops you in the aisle, paying for the groceries and getting home. And that's the quick one. But let's come back again to the fact that what if that fresh milk is not there and you don't have any milk in food storage? How much is that powdered milk going to be worth to you? Or again, fill in the blank with any other thing that you want to make sure you have in food storage that might cost you more to either dehydrate or can up yourself, or to already buy it like that. How much more is it going to be worth to you when it's not available in the store? So my guess is if there's no milk around and you can't find it anywhere, and those who have their dairy animals are either not willing to sell it because they're keeping it for them and their families, then I'm thinking that $14 a gallon is gonna sound pretty cheap. And then talking about the cost of just organic in general, even though this one in particular actually works out to be cheaper than the rest of the whole milk powders that I looked at, I'm talking the whole milk powders, not the cheap non-fat ones that have had everything stripped out and then junk put back in them. I'm talking about the good whole milk powders. But let's just think about anything that's organic. So let's say you have to go buy organic peanut butter powder, or here's another one I'm going to get to because this one came up too, organic cacao powder and organic cacao butter. And yeah, you're going to pay more in a lot of cases to buy organic, but what's the trade-off there? The more healthy and organic foods that you're storing up, that cost difference is going to make up for itself in the fact that you're taking better care of your health, thus less medications or no medications. Like, we're not on any medications. We took ourselves off the thyroid medication 9.5 years ago. And I have a video on that I know I mention a lot that I'll link to down below. I have 2 that I'll link to actually. And we took ourselves off allergy meds, anything like that. We don't take any of that stuff. And the money we save, not just on not having to buy the medications, but not having to go into the doctor all the time for checkups and blood tests. Oh, the blood tests are outrageous how much they charge. And health insurance covers less and less every year. So we're not paying that money out. So we can afford then to take the money we're not putting into that and put it back into organic foods that's going to help keep us off of those things. So to me, this is one of the things I had to weigh out as I started switching over more and more to organic. Now I still don't have everything organic, but I do try to look at whatever I'm getting. Is it in the clean 15 or is it in the dirty dozen? At least look at that. And and a lot of this is going to depend on the availability of organic in our area. We don't always have that, but thanks to Misfits Market, we're able to get more of that kind of stuff in now. But yes, when I first started doing that, making that jump from regular milk to organic milk, it was double in price. And it was a little bit of sticker shock, but eventually you get used to it. You learn to adjust your budget to fit, knowing that by doing so, you're taking better care of your health, and thus you're preventing having to go to the doctor as much or get on more medication, or even able to take yourself off medication, and thus save a lot of money that way. So to me, I look at it this way: the cost of your health has to be worth something. So now let me talk again about the cacaos here that I have. Why am I bringing this up? Well, because that last video, that recipe video I did on the coconut cream chocolate, and remember that video I do share the written recipe that doesn't just include the coconut cream one, but the orange, the raspberry, the peanut butter, the peppermint, and so on. What I think some people don't understand when they see me do recipes like this, they think that, oh, I'm just full of money, I just run out and buy all this organic stuff to have all these luxury items. Well, that's not really the case. So just like I mentioned in that video I'll be linking to down below on how to get started in prepping, that was a part of it. So when I first started really putting up food, I started with the most important things: the grains, the dairy powders, starting a garden and canning my own goods like the green beans and the tomatoes and so much more. And once I got to a point where I felt pretty good about the supply I had of all these different things, be they homegrown things or store-bought things like a lot of the dried beans that we have, organic dried beans, then I started focusing more on other things where that would help ease food fatigue and just add joy to having to live off our food stores. So that is why I started stocking up on things like a cacao powder and cacao butter. But not just that alone, because these things right here have a lot of good health benefits. In fact, I did a video just on the health benefits of chocolate. And when you're making your own, you're saving a lot of money on this. Unlike maybe the dried dairy powders, when it comes to the chocolate, when you make your own, even out of the organic stuff that I buy in the biggest containers I can, so I can save even more money, then you're saving a lot more money than you would if you ran to the store and bought a whole bunch of candy bars to put in your storage. And you're making it healthier, and you're making it taste exactly how you want. So let's say you have all these, whatever your favorite candy bar is. Well, maybe at some point you get tired of that, or maybe not everybody likes that. But stocking up on something like these two ingredients here, you can take these two things and make them taste however you want. You don't like coconut? Leave the coconut out and put something else in. And not only did you save money, but you gave yourself a lot of variety. You added some joy and more flavor to your food storage to make life more worth living. To me, that's worth it right there. So when I shot that video on the coconut cream chocolate, those items that I was using, most of those items you saw were items that came from food storage that I've been building for years. And the only thing was the coconut milk. That little bag of coconut milk from Now Foods was the newest thing in there because I wanted to try it. That's part of what I do here, is to do taste comparisons and quality comparisons so I can share them with you and my thoughts. And that way you can base your decisions on what you buy and put in your food storage on that. It still doesn't mean it's going to suit you, but at least you have a real live person telling you that. So that's the other reason why I do that. And these are just a couple of examples that I can give. So just because somebody might have some high quality organic things in their food storage doesn't mean they're rich. And just like I've shared before in other videos, we've been on that financial roller coaster just like anyone else. And getting ourselves out of debt was the best thing that we ever did. And I do not recall how many years it's been now, 8, 9 years, something like that, because it was pretty close to the same time we took ourselves off the thyroid medication. And we paid that house off. You know, getting yourself out of debt, learning how to cut out things you really don't need, then taking that money and start putting it into the things that you can put into food storage to keep your family not just fed, but healthy and happy at the same time. I think that's pretty important. But again, each individual person, if this isn't your thing or you don't think it's worth the cost, then focus on something that is, rather than putting people down that are doing this for themselves and for their family. I mean, I have a grandson, I have another grandbaby on the way, and I'm looking forward to being able to work in the kitchen together with them to make some more healthy chocolates using organic sugar or honey and the organic goods here, because I'm looking out for their future health as well as ours. And that I'm not telling everybody you should buy dried dairy powder and pay $14 a gallon, unless having milk on hand is very important to you. It might not be, but having chocolate might be, or the ability to even just make hot cocoa, or having some nutritional yeast flakes if you're a vegan. I mean, these things are great. I still love them, and I still stock up on them. And in fact, right here is this is the brand I'm switching to for the nutritional yeast flakes, because they don't synthesize the B vitamin that goes in here. And then the Judy's cream cheese powder. I was going to mention this earlier. One of the reasons I've been stocking up on this is because of for the past month or so, there's been a cream cheese shortage. I would much rather have some cream cheese powder on hand than when I want to make something with cream cheese, go down to the store and there's none there. That's been happening to people. So I'm pretty sure that was the main things I wanted to cover in this video. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible, but when it comes to prepping, it is a very broad subject. We have so many videos out there about dehydrating, canning, putting up food, and how food storage on its own is an insurance against all kinds of hard times. I'll link to some of those down below, but remember, you can do a search on our channel, and if you use the main YouTube search bar, always make sure whatever channel you're looking for, put their name in there. So if you use the main YouTube search, put Rain Country and then whatever topic you're looking for. But there's also, each channel has their own specific search bar, so you don't have to type in the channel name when you use that one, and it's down along the side there. But if you can't find what you're looking for, just ask. If I have a video out, I'll link you to it. If I don't, I'll let you know. And if I know of somebody else who does, like maybe Homestead Tessie or Doug and Stacy or Danny and Wanda at Deep South Homestead or whoever out there, then I will let you know that, if I know that. All right, well, please share your thoughts and ideas down below. What are your favorite things to store up on? What's worth it for you, even if you have to pay more for it in a dried form or put in the work and time and energy to dehydrate it or can it for your food storage? What's some of the most important things to you that you would be willing to pay $14 a gallon for if you couldn't get it at all? Oh yes, and remember, this is also, all of this, even this here, the cost of it is a hedge against inflation. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.